I am a tiny bit like my teacher in that I give BBC sometimes with ideas that have not been flushed out completely. This one has been going on for about 2 months. It went into the recycle bin actually and came back out. And it's become more meaningful the more that I think about it. So I just want to share my musings that are still unfolding. And I want to revisit the idea of hope again. Venerable mentioned it in the BBC a few months ago when she was talking about optimism and rejoicing. And in a very short part of that, she mentioned a talk by Roshi Joan Halifax at the Sakadita conference 2 years ago where she talked about what she simply called wise hope. Now, being a Buddhist, wisdom informing any kind of thoughts gets my attention. So the idea of having a hope, a mind that gives us the ability to discern, to be skillful, and to understand the deeper nature of things was important. I said, okay, wise hope, I can buy that. Because previously, my thinking is that hope doesn't have enough juice behind it. It doesn't have enough power behind it, doesn't have enough intention behind it. It's a kind of wishful thinking where we don't have to participate in affecting change. I hope he doesn't get sick. I hope it works out for everybody. I hope she's okay. I hope I get a chance to do that. I hope he gets what he deserves. I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow. I mean, it's kind of doesn't have a lot of intention and juice behind it. And I came to realize that mostly because the things that I have hoped for in my life are pretty much out of my control. Somebody else's life, somebody else's mind, or the weather, or something that I have been unable to do or to experience. But when Venerable says to be content to create the causes and the results will come, hope seems to come up a little bit short on that. By creating causes and conditions, I don't feel that there's a lot of that energy behind when you hope for something. And the other thing that came up for me, that as a child raised as a Catholic, I was raised with the three virtues of faith, hope, and charity, or faith, hope, and love. I had a charm bracelet when I was a teenage girl that had this little charm on it. And faith is a cross. Hope was a cross that turned into a ship's anchor. And charity or love was a heart. And I never forgot that. And as a Buddhist, faith works for me. I can integrate that into my Dharma practice. I can integrate, charity or generosity or love, but I wasn't quite sure about hope. There's no mental factor I've seen that called hope. But Roshi Joan, the way that she describes it in this talk, this wise hope, has really worked for me, especially now, everything that's going on in the world. So I wanted to share with you some of her thoughts, totally interspersed with mine. So this is going to be, once again, a continuity of two kinds of thinking. So first she says that wise hope is not the belief that everything will turn out okay. Because through the Buddhist lens, wise hope is born of uncertainty. How can we ever know what is really going to happen? Because samsara by its nature is uncertain. But how do we meet this continual uncertainty where it is in our face every day? Like, what the heck is going to happen next? And that's so apparent even more these days. She says, wise hope requires that we open ourselves to what we don't know, what we can't know, to be okay with being perpetually surprised, and I added, perpetually stunned, horrified, or inspired, and to not be thrown off and fall into fear or frustration, to be able to engage right into the uncertainty, right into the not knowing, the unexpected. That wise hope takes that uncertainty and works within it. And for us, that's mostly in here. It doesn't see things unrealistically because wise hope knows two things about life. It's impermanent and it's unsatisfactory. Yet, wise hope reflects the understanding, and this may sound a little cliche-ish, that what we do matters, how we think matters, even though how and when it may matter, or who or what it might impact, are not things that we can know beforehand. Even when things look shaky and almost hopeless, she says, show up. Wise hope doesn't deny what's going on. It's not a mind of denial. We look at our lives right now, take care of addressing whatever comes up. And this is where I just kind of really opened up into our situation right now in the world, is that everything that matters, from my view, is going on right now. The well-being of the people of this country, every one of us, matters. Its democracy matters, its justice system matters, its constitution and the rights it declares for everyone matters. Its leadership matters, its education system matters, its ethical principles matter, its prosperity distribution matters. Because everything is so interconnected, everything matters. And what do? What do we bring to it? We bring what we have. Wherever we are in our life, our practice, that's what we bring. If our motivation is clear, sincere, and honest whenever we speak about what is going on, or if we act in response to what is going on, wise hope is the certainty that something makes sense to do for the benefit of others, regardless how it turns out, not being attached to outcome. So motivate, this is with a driving force, what we hear over and over again in our practice, motivation is the most important thing. We can trust that although we don't know how things will go, we can be certain that there will be movement and there will be change. And that is where our Dharma practice can be our guide to keep track of ourselves, setting wise and vast motivations, setting a course, staying steady, like anchoring a ship so it doesn't go adrift. That's where the analogy of this hope with this anchoring concept worked for me. Because we know we are all going to have to change course, our practice becomes this anchor. Keep steady, set our motivation, direct our actions, be willing to change course as far as continually having to widen our perspective. Because to be able to look at what is going on in the world, in our country right now, we have to be continually changing our perspective, widening it, including it, seeing things in a much, much bigger way. In the middle of a pandemic, we have one of the largest social movements in our history happening. We are changing course. As Buddhists, and this is the beautiful part of Roshi Jones' piece too here. As Buddhists, she says, we share a common aspiration to awaken from our confusion, our greed, and our anger in order to free others from suffering. For many of us, this bodhicitta aspiration is not a, quote, small self-improvement program. It is a practice to be free of attachment to outcome and a kind of wisdom hope that overcomes our fear and our self-preoccupation and our self-preservation. And to touch into what I believe in this country right now is the truest voice we have had as a people in a long time, which is vast and trying to be inclusive, leaving no one out. That is not small self-improvement program. That's vast thinking. We are not Buddhas by any extent of the imagination, this is my thought. But some of us, if we can open our eyes and hearts and be courageous about where we are in this milieu, and as uncomfortable as it may get, we can wake up to the suffering of others that we have not noticed or cared about before or have not known how to help. The images and the voices that we are paying attention to are telling us this is what matters. Dignity for all, justice for all, compassion towards all, respect towards all, equality for all. We don't know how this pandemic is going to turn out or end. How many people will we lose? 430,000 in the world, 118 in the US so far. What is the impact on all of us, especially our essential folks, our healthcare workers? What impact is it going to have on them? Nor the protest demanding a fundamental change in our thinking about each other and who is included in human rights. These are such huge issues, huge and intimidating. But as the peace activist Daniel Berrigan once said, this is another quote of Roshi Joan, one cannot level one's moral lance at every evil in the universe. There are just too many of them. But we can do something. And the difference between doing something and doing nothing is everything. We do what we can with joy, some courage, and because of our practice and our tradition, the long-term view, because what we do matters, and as long as it takes, and it's going to take a long time, because it's not just about changing policy, about changing laws, but it's about changing our minds on how we see and treat each other. And that includes our daily practice of working on our minds, generating bodhicitta, being kind, encouraging, speaking out with clarity and compassion. And to use this time to reassess our lives, I truly believe that we are at a very critical juncture. To assess what we believe in, how we live that. Am I contributing to the peace of the world, or am I contributing to the pain of the world by my actions, my speech, and my thoughts? I think this juncture will really prove that. And wise hope for me sees that our small worlds, our inner circles, whether it be at the Abbey or in your living room, in these past few months has been jettisoned. All of us have been jettisoned into the big picture, whether we're ready or not. The interdependence compels us to practice universal responsibility we share as part of this American family and this global family of all living beings. We belong to it, and we are responsible to it. And wise hope gives us the courage, the sense of care and willingness to engage at whatever level we can. As Buddhists, our daily practice matters is something we can contribute. And to know this is a big change. And I wisely hope that we can all participate through our practice to create the causes for a big change that serves everyone. Because I deeply believe that collective karma can work in everyone's favor. And I really do believe that that's our contribution. And that's how wise hope really does